This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual purge sanctioned by the U.S. government. Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the purge. All other weapons are restricted. Government officials of ranking 10 have been granted immunity from the purge and shall not be harmed. Commencing at the siren, any and all crime, including murder, will be legal for 12 continuous hours. Police, fire, and emergency medical services will be unavailable until tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. when the purge concludes. Blessed be our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
So hey guys, you just heard a part of the emergency broadcast system for the Purge message. And that is because for today's movie review, I'm going to be reviewing The Purge Anarchy. It's the latest in the Purge series, which will probably become a very long series of films more than likely if the film does well over the next few weeks or so. This film's pretty recent. It actually came out a few days after so I saw this a few days after it came out. And it's basically, though it is a sequel to the 2013 Purge film, the original one with Ethan Hawke, this film centers around a group of different characters. It's quite clear it's the same universe. But unfortunately, the stuff that we saw throughout the first Purge film, this really is not a continuation of that. This is more so that universe within a different year. So this could be a year before, a year after, the same year, just different place in the U.S. where the purge happened. So it's actually centered around a group of new characters this time. One of them is played by Frank Grillo. Some of you might know him from Captain America 2: The Winter Soldier as Crossbones. He plays a guy in this who lost his son from a drunk driver. And so, he's against this whole purge thing. He wants to help others. And so he kind of lost, the things most important to him in his life. So basically, he's kind of the anti-purger. He wants to make sure that those who are, they don't have a home to stay in or whatever during the purge, that they, get protected, that they don't become harmed during it. The film also centers around a waitress who has a teenage daughter. She also, you'll find out throughout the movie, there's a series of events that happen that kind of accidentally get the two of them out into the streets as victims for the purge. We also have a husband and wife couple who had their car break down, and they are now on the streets and vulnerable to the purge as well. So basically, all these people team up. Something happens to all of them. Basically, they all find out that they're not purgers. That they're trying to find shelter so that way they don't get harmed during it. And so throughout the course of the film, it's them trying to survive the night of the purge, since they seem to be the only people out on the streets that wish to not be a part of the purge, but they have to survive it, since as kind of as punishment for not being in shelter, they can become victim to anybody now who is purging out in the streets. So I really enjoyed this film, you guys. It is a very dark movie, kind of like the first film, but it's good for a film like this. It's supposed to be dark. It's supposed to be kind of questions who we are as human beings. Do we really have all this violent behavior built up in us? Do we have all these grudges and revenges against people that we really don't like on everyday life? And I can really honestly say that The Purge Anarchy really plays off the concept of the purge much better than the first film did. So for my first compliment, for the positives and negatives of The Purge Anarchy, it's pretty obvious. It's a huge improvement over the first film. It's just in every way possible, with more interesting characters, better atmosphere, better feeling of what the purge is about, better rules and establishment. It's an action movie, it's a thriller, and it's a horror film all in one. It really is a huge improvement over the first film. It really improves upon that first script very, very well. Kind of like I was just talking about a second ago, this film has a great sense of dangerous atmosphere. You really get the impression that, by being on these streets during the purge, basically you're not safe. There's people with snipers on top of the buildings. There's people on the streets. There's people below the streets. There's traps. There's all these things set up that will basically help the purgers get to you really quickly for The Purge. It really just has a great sense of danger and scariness, and it really was very effective for me for this film. Frank Grillo's character was also very interesting to me. He kind of reminded me of the Punisher. I've been hearing that a lot from other people who've seen this film as well. Frank Grillo would be a great Frank Castle if Marvel decides to make another Punisher film. But either way, the character he played in this, I kind of like how they kept it mysterious for a while. You really didn't quite know if he was one of the Purgers or what he was doing for a while. Um, but as soon as you get to know more about him and kind of what he does, and that he's very street smart and very good about keeping a group of people together safe during a night like this. Just very interesting character, and I really like how the director and writer of this movie, who I think is actually the same person, when it came to production, really did a good job, really making sure that his character was very interesting. This film also explores what the purge is about more so often. The first film, there really wasn't any violations of it. It's just kind of we're experiencing this for the first time on film. What this purge thing is about. This film kind of also shows not only what the purge is about, what happens on the street, because we really didn't get to see a lot of that in the first film either. But this film also shows kind of the penalties of what happens when purgers actually break the own rules. Since basically there's kind of weapons they can't use, they can't attack government officials, who form this whole purge thing. There is rules for them as well, and the film also kind of briefly explores what happens to them when they themselves, the purgers, don't follow the rules during the purge. The film is scary, thrilling, and action packed, and I really like how it's kind of all three in one, and it does it very, very successfully. It works as an action film, it works as a thriller, and it works as a horror film. It works as all three of those very well. The film was always entertaining as well. I was never bored throughout this film. It's always entertaining. It's always doing something that keeps us at the edge of our seat. When it's surprising, and it's just a really well made film. For the negatives of The Purge Anarchy, I do think this film needed some more intelligent characters. Besides Frank Grillo, there really wasn't a lot of intelligent characters. A lot of them did things that I don't think a lot of people in reality would have done, specifically if they're trying to hide from purgers and things like that. So I really would have liked to see more smart characters involved in the script of this movie. I think the film could have also used more character development. We get to learn a little bit about Frank Grillo's background. He's an interesting character, don't get me wrong. I would have liked to learn more about him since he is such an interesting character. Other characters that were following him surviving the night of the purge as well, we really don't get to know a lot about them, specifically the couple that had their car breakdown, who are a part of this group trying to survive. We really don't get to learn a lot about them. And so I would really like to have seen more character development for those characters. There's also some one-dimensional threats that these characters face. The characters trying to survive the night of the purge. A lot of one-dimensional threats that they face. Just it's the purge. I'm gonna have to be out to kill you and all that kind of stuff. So I just would have liked to have seen more motivation behind these antagonists, if you know what I mean. There's just some people where they're just in the script because they're out to purge, and there's just some people where in the film where it's just like, okay, well, what do you have against that person? I would have just. It'd be interesting to see maybe if a third purge film gets made, they could explore this. What is the benefit of the purge? What really does besides lowering the crime rate? What do the people who partake in this event? What do they get out of it? Do they are they happy because the person they really hate is gone and all that kind of stuff? But so I don't know. It felt a little one dimensional in that aspect, and the first film had that too. So if a third Purge film gets made, my biggest recommendation is please make sure there's more better motivations, I guess, behind these villainous characters. Because like the first film, it really is kind of one dimensional when it comes to that kind of aspect of this movie. But overall, guys, I give The Purge Anarchy an 8.5 out of 10. It really is a very good film. Not the best of the year. I didn't think it was that good. But if you want a good Purge film, if you want something that really improved upon the first film, this film will really do it for you. And I really like how there's three different genres to this film rather than just the horror, thriller, home invasion aspect of the first film. I think the way they pursued it this time was the correct way to do it. So 8.5 out of 10. And what am I saying? 8.5 out of 10 for me. It's a very good film. If you like the first Purge film, if you're kind of like me when going into this, it's a great concept that you want to see better with a better script. Purge Anarchy once again did that for me, and I hope it does that for you as well. So be sure to see the Purge Anarchy. I thought it was actually pretty well done.